Welcome to Thriving in the Age of Disruption with Dr. Ramesh. We're glad you can join us for this podcast episode about harnessing the power of people and technology for a sustainable future with Dr. Katia Chaban from the United States of America. Dr. Ramesh explores the powerful synergy between people and technology with Dr. Chaban to enable innovation so businesses, people, and the planet can thrive. With more than 25 years of global IT leadership experience working with Fortune 500 companies, Dr. Chaban shares her unique insights for companies to integrate sustainability into their business models through innovation, collaboration, and circular economy principles. Dr. Chaban emphasizes the importance of an entrepreneurial mindset, resilience in the face of crisis, and building empowering networks. Whether you're passionate about sustainability, tech innovation, or women's leadership, this episode offers a compelling look at driving positive change through innovation, education, collaboration, and purpose-driven action to progress sustainability.
Welcome to the Thriving in the Age of Disruption podcast series, Katia. I'm so excited to meet you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thank you. I'm honored and excited about this because I've listened to several of the podcasts that you've put together. I do a lot of walking and hiking, and they were energizing and they were really interesting to get very broad perspectives. But knowing that you're kind of more Asia specific, I'm honored that you're including me. Here I am in Rochester, New York. It's 5 a.m. It's really exciting. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And you're someone who actually has a wealth of experience and expertise, which is relevant for Asia and what we're dealing with. And we both met in Bangkok last year. It is really a great opportunity. So let's dive in. To have you introduce yourself, to share a little bit about yourself, what you do professionally, your personal life.
Sure. So I like to always start out my personal section with the fact that I'm on a mission. And that mission is to harness the power of people and technology to enable innovation so that businesses, people, and the planet can thrive. The triple bottom line. But that's a really important focus for me. I spent a lot of time in corporate America, over 25 years in IT outsourcing, supporting very large Fortune 500 companies from a technology perspective and business transformation perspective globally. And that chapter of my life was focused a lot on supporting clients, but really it was around cost optimization. So how much can you do for less and continuing to cut? So being in IT was always a lot of pressure, right, to continue to cut. So I've created this mission statement in this kind of new chapter, a new focus of mine, because I want it to be more than that. I want it to be focusing on things that are much more purposeful. So as I evolved out of those 25 plus years in IT outsourcing, so worked for big companies, EDS, HP, NTT Data Services, I went back to school and obtained my doctorate in business. And that's where I fell in love with sustainability and sustainable business practices and the circular economy and all of these important concepts. And of course, going for a doctorate, the research associated with it. So you're looking at the data and the impact. It was so mind-opening that I said, all right, this has got to be a lot more purpose. So now I'm taking all of that business and IT experience in my little company called Rethinked Strategies, and all of my now certifications and education from a sustainability perspective. And I believe I have a unique skill set that can help bridge business, IT, and sustainability. So that's really what I'm focusing on. And we do consulting advisory types of services. But then on a personal note, very active in my community. I have been a competitive rower for over 20 years. So that's been my sport. And so I have a wonderful community here. I'm part of something called the Rochester Community Inclusive Rowing Club, where we focus on veterans and those with challenges, and we get them out on the water. So I'm privileged to be able to share my sport with people that otherwise probably never would have been able to get on the water and get in one of these boats, and coach them and show them how to get on that water and enjoy that healing that the water brings. And I also, unique and interesting is I have been coaching since 2008 at a local high school here, Aquinas Institute, and the boxing program. So I have been involved in that. And that's a really interesting program because that's also giving. We focus a lot on fundraising for things like Parkinson's, but we also focus on raising money for the missions in South America and being able to do good there. So
that's really great. I think we've got several touch points and several different ways in which we can go. So I'm going to ask you the first question, which is around entrepreneurial mindset. I feel that in today's VUCA world, one of the key mindset is an entrepreneurial mindset. And I define that as whereby one is being resourceful. And as someone who is resourceful, you're able to look at a problem and really spend enough time to define it accurately, correctly, because if you do so, at least half the problem is solved. And then the second part of it is that you are able to deal with uncertainty and take risks. And the third piece is to create value. And when I listen to your journey, whether it was from corporate America, then going on to do your doctorate, and now looking at how you want to work in the sustainability space, or even the projects that you do with fundraising and the rowing project, right? Because it's all about creating value. People sometimes think that an entrepreneurial mindset means that you go out there and start a business and run it. It's far from it. It's someone who's able to be resourceful in any situation. So if you can just share with us what your journey has been like, and as you look at it, where can you see that these things showed up, the entrepreneurial mindset?
This is a really interesting question because working in corporate, there's a lot of support that's already there. So I was never part of sales. I didn't have to go out and get clients. I had to do enough and quality work to keep clients, but marketing and getting out there and selling, that was that. So this journey moving from corporate into, all right, I want to do something. I have an idea. When you talk about problem, you start to look at the metrics and the data associated with sustainability. And then on my journey, I started to hone really in on specific areas of sustainability because it's such a broad topic to figure out where I could best fit. That was a journey, and that was a lot of learning. And that was obviously risk-taking in opening up the business and not being part of corporate where you've got your stability as far as your paycheck and those types of things. But it was really trying to figure out, how do now I do this when I don't have these experiences? What do I need to do to educate myself? What kind of networking do I need to do? What resources? I mean, even questions on how do you set up your business from a legal entity and all of those things. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned, and this journey's been over a year, is that there's so many people and there's so many resources that for help. It's something that you can reach out and ask for help, and people are very, very willing to be able to do that. So that was an important learning on this journey, is that you've got there's support out there. But it has been an interesting journey for me, because I will say, from a risk taking, right, you've got your bills to pay and your mortgage and those types of things, but I also am focused on my mission statement and want to do good. So you keep moving forward and trying to figure things out and how you do things. When I started this journey, I said I wanted to do sustainability. When you talk about the time and uncertainty and the problem, it took me a while to get to the area that I now know that I need to be focused on, and that's sustainability in IT, in information technology. And when you look at data, like in the US in 2023, information technology spend was $1.3 trillion. That's just in the US. And that number will grow 4% annually. And then you look at statistics that say the IT industry will be the cause of over 20% of global emissions by 2025. And then you look at what companies, surveys that folks like Gartner or Capgemini have done, who has sustainability strategies, and in who's including information technology or their IT footprint in them. It's a very low number. And there's just not skill sets in IT that are also mapped up to sustainability. And so when you spend that time looking at the data and researching the problem you can really hone in on that, what that problem is. And then to solve it, it's what I kind of indicated in my opening is I have all of this IT experience. I have now all of this education awareness and experience in sustainability, and I can help bring those things together. Now, is it something that everybody is aware of? No. Is it something that everybody cares about? No. So, there's that risk taking. So you have to be out there talking to people and socializing it and creating that awareness. It can be scary because it's not a concept that a lot of people, particularly in the US, are really familiar with or wonder if they need to care about. And here I am trying to push that agenda that it is something that we need to care about because I am so passionate about it. So I like to call myself a social entrepreneur, right? Trying to do good from an environment, but also a social perspective.
Right. So I really loved how you created for all of us your journey into entrepreneurship and what it meant about validating that idea that you had and how you brought your own experience, your education, and then that mission that you had created, right, around how you want to make an impact. What was interesting was that you didn't give up. You had to probably ideate and iterate to find that really, key niche area that you wanted to focus on. When you described how the IT sector has got a limited footprint and awareness around, their impact to carbon emission and lack of sustainability in terms of, how they are looking at their processes, and that it's about 20% of what 1.3 trillion market, that surprised me because it's almost like, wow, you're in this blue ocean area space, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, because you're in that space, a lot of it has to go with education because, that's the opportunity that you have because, not many people are in it. And you have the first mover advantage if you can go out there and get your services to people.
That's what I keep telling myself. And I think the other important thing on that journey is that networking. When you identify a problem, is talking to people and trying to understand practically. So real life, you've got your academics and your research, but then real life, what those problems are, and be able to bounce those ideas off a lot of smart people. And one of the things that was apparent to me early in my journey is I had a great IT network. So I had a lot of folks that I had built relationships with, IT suppliers, software suppliers, but I didn't have anybody in the sustainability space. And so what became very apparent early on is I have to build this network. I have to start doing the scary thing and reaching out to complete and total strangers to understand what they do, why they do things, just to help build what I need to understand to be able to create and finalize that mission. And we have a common friend,
Yes.
Dr. Nish Foley, who was one of those people that I had met. Here I am in the US. I reached out to somebody the other side of the world. They gave me their time to talk to me. And she gave me some really great advice, which was around moving into kind of more of a consulting type of role, because that's an area where you can experience a lot of different industries and a lot of different problems instead of just being honed in. And then, of course, the opportunity to come to Thailand and present my research and meet folks like you and, get on the stage and do fireside chat. I mean, it was just an incredible journey, but part of it, right? And that was all part of building that network. And what I found recently is there is this small number of people that believe that there is a problem from a sustainability IT that are trying to be proactive about creating that awareness and education. So now I found some like-minded people, and that's really exciting because I know I'm not crazy. I know that there is a problem there that I identified. People, smart people that are living also agree that there's a problem. And now I have resources and folks that are supportive of, yes, we need to go and do this. And so it's like this, we got this, we're going to go and change the world in this particular state. So that networking and that reaching out and that growing that network was super important on that journey.
Great. So just to wrap up that whole conversation about sustainability in IT. What's your definition of sustainability? In our consulting practice, we say that sustainability is about the ongoing thriving of any living system. For us, we start with the people's mindset, because if they can't own it, then everything else doesn't matter. And that's our focus. What's your focus, and how do you define sustainability?
So I always say I kind of look at everything through the circular lens. My dissertation was focused on the circular economy as a framework. So I start with sustainability. If we have that mindset, and if we have those business practices in place, and we're doing the right things, we're eliminating waste and pollution, we're regenerating nature, and we're circulating or keeping products and materials in their life cycle for much longer versus this throw out type of mentality that we have in the world today. There's the mindset that has to go around that. So that's the awareness component of it. So for me, it's those three principles that are really circular economy principles that are super important. That's how I start those conversations, and using that framework. And then it reaches out. Well, how do you get to those things? And it is the mindsets, and it's changing our behaviors, but it's enabling things through things like technology, and education and awareness. And it just goes on and on. Government regulations, right? So it spawns out to a whole bunch of things that need to happen for us to be successful. But it starts with really those three circular economy principles.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. From this, I'd like to move on to another mindset I feel is also important in this VUCA world, and that's what I call crisis-ready mindset. I define crisis as any kind of setback or even sometimes a failure. And how do we react in that moment? Do we fight? Do we freeze? Do we flee? And I'm sure you've dealt with these setbacks and failures in the course of your life, personally or professionally, or even in this journey that we were talking about when you had to come out and start your business. What do you think were some of the enduring practices that you had developed over time that supported you to be successful, to move beyond that setback?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm really blessed. So I look at this crisis resilience and being able to adapt, in where there's kind of four different categories. One is really kind of the psychological and mental state, my emotional state, my physical state, and then kind of social and community. I am really lucky to have a fantastic community. I talked about my
Yes.
personal, that's a community that I have. So as I've gone on this journey, and I've had days where I'm thinking, what am I doing? Is this really going to work? Am I going to be successful at that? So you have those downs. I've had the ability to be able to turn to that community and do things where I know I can be successful. I'm helping people, and that balances out that kind of negativity that enters your mind every once in a while. And from a physical perspective, because I am so physical, it's really important, and people I don't think take advantage of enough, is go and take that walk, or in my case, go and row, or go and punch a bag or whatever. And it's getting those endorphins, it's getting those happy juices back in your body to get over those moments where you're really questioning why you're doing something. And those feed into those psychological and emotional, right? So if you've got those support systems and those mechanisms, that's really helpful. I will say there are days still when I think back to the decision of leaving corporate world back, that was 2021. And I think to myself, what have I done? Was that the right decision? And so what I try and do is don't ponder it. You can't change the past. So just focus on the present. And then I come around to, yes, because you haven't been this alive and aware and passionate about something for a very long time. This is the right path for you to wake up in the morning and have conversations and help people and create and drive awareness and do the things that you do and feel good about it. That's the right path. I bounce on those four pillars, and I'm lucky that I have that community behind me too.
Wow, that's really great. What you talked about is be able to leverage on an area where you are successful. And in your case, you've actually built good networks with a community which empowers you, and the work that you do with them, is so satisfying that even on the bad days, that's that rainbow that you have, right? The sense of fulfillment. And
Exactly.
and number two is that, you called out the need to stay active and physical, because when we do that, whether it's with a walk or rowing or boxing, it gets us active and back into the game. And the third piece is about staying present in the here and now. Not look back, not look too much into the forward, because then you're just focused on what you need to do. And what I took away from all those conversations is that somehow you're actually having positive affirmation for yourself. You're reframing, right? And you're also using the power of your purpose or mission to keep you on track, your North Star, to keep you on track in that journey.
And it can be scary. It can be, but you just, like you said, it's you can't change the past, and you're not going to alter the future. Just focus on the now and what you can do, and the things that you need to be doing, and the people that you need to be focusing on.
I just had a thought. When you were in IT 25 years ago, I'm sure there weren't as many women. What sort of advice do you have for young women leaders who want to go into technology, science and technology and IT? And I'm sure even now they're not represented equally.
There was an article I started to read even yesterday about trying to advance, the number of CIOs, female
Yes.
CIOs, leaders, and really focusing on the girls and females that are going through their STEM and their education. And yeah, we're not there yet. Yeah, it was. I'll tell you, I think it was my second day at a company, big IT company, and I started my career in Toronto. So I was born in Canada. And so my education, or my initial education and career, started in Toronto. And I remember walking into the environment that I would be working in, and I was managing a help desk, a technical help desk in support of a customer. Very exciting, scary, all that great stuff. And a gentleman stood in the door, and it was the oddest thing. He looked at me up and down, this very uncomfortable visual, and he said, "You took my job." That's a long time ago. That got ingrained in me, and it was this reaction. At first there was fear, and there was anxiety, and then I took that and said, "This is my job," right? And so I started to really focus, like, what was that? What was that? And why was that? How do I approach it? So I was very lucky, because at the time, the CIO of my client, very large global manufacturing, was a female. And the president of EDS at the time was also female. So I was super, super lucky to walk into an environment where two high-powered females were there to be my mentor, to be my guide. And a lot of people don't have that today. And it's super important to find those mentors and those leaders, but also to understand what is it that you need to do. And so this interaction with this gentleman really made me focus on, I'm going to manage this organization so well. I'm going to do it by data. In fact, I'm going to create and innovate. I'm going to make this the best place for people to work. I'm going to help make this client successful. All those things go through your mind in response. So instead of shriveling up and oh my gosh, what have I done? I took it as this empowerment. That's, yeah, this is not, I got this. If you were supposed to have this job, you would have had this job, but I got this job, and I am going to do my darndest. And I became CIO at Vertex, I think it was 47. And at the time, when I looked at the statistics, there was less than 15% of female CIOs in the US. And when you looked at the ages of the CIOs in the US at that time, it was gentlemen all plus 60. Wow. And so that was also looking at that data and saying, look what I just did, tick. And we need to make more women leaders be successful and do this. And the only way to do that is to lead and mentor. So I spent a lot of time mentoring both women and men, and even when I coach, it's women and men. But what I found interesting and the common theme when I was mentoring professionals, and even today I do a lot of mentoring with MBA students and entrepreneurs in the climate tech space, it's that lack of confidence. And I go back to that, my original story, where I for a short second lost all confidence because of that particular interaction. And then I grew it back. And so when I talk to people and I work with people, and the advice that I give to people is, if you are lacking that confidence, either you realize it yourself or somebody is pointing it out to you, you have got to work on that. You have got to figure out what the cause of that is and help and resolve it. And whatever that issue might be, because you need to have that confidence to step into a boardroom. You need to have that confidence to do a client presentation. You need to have the confidence to ask the hard questions, because if you're not doing those things, you're not going to make a change. You're not going to make an impact, right? And so you've got to have that confidence. And so it's hard. It can be hard.
Number one, when you were challenged, you took ownership of that job. That's your job, because you're sitting there in that chair. Number two is that, you called out something really important about mentorship, and to be able to find someone in the organization who can support you in your journey, maybe clear some roadblocks. And, you were lucky, absolutely, to have both the client and the boss, be both female, empowering, mentors. But, sometimes we may not find that person so easily, but it's for us to still look around and see who can empower us in the organization. And the third piece is really, build our confidence, and and not to be scared and to just stop, but to look at whether it's going back to school, reading stuff, talking to people, but we've got to do something to build up our confidence.
What we all have to realize is you can't take things personally. When you're in the business sense, as soon as you let things, if I had let that interaction be personal, then I probably wouldn't have been successful, right? It would have eaten at me. That was a business interaction in a business workplace. Let it be business. And if somebody's providing you advice and they didn't like what you presented 100%, it's not personal. Take it as you're going to make improvements and move forward. So I think that's the other thing, especially as women, sometimes we do take it more personally, and you just have to know you're in a workspace. If somebody makes it personal, that's another type of issue, right? That might be an HR related. But in these work transactions and conversations, don't take it personally. It's advice, it's input, it might be criticism, it might be hard to hear, but just take it and figure out what you need to do next.
Okay, great. So now I want to move on to a new topic, and that's about spirituality. I wanted to find out what's your view about spirituality, and where are you on that journey?
Yeah, so spirituality for me, the ability to constantly learn and the ability to accept. And I do that through education. I do it through traveling, experiencing different cultures, go back to my Thailand experience with you. That those things for me are what feeds my spirituality, is that constant learning and that constant acceptance. Everybody's different, cultures are different, but they're unique and beautiful. And you may take things from different cultures and adapt your lifestyle. And I think, where am I on that journey? I'm on it. I'm not at the beginning. I'm not at that end. I will always continually learn and look at and try the food and try this and try to speak the language and just to embrace and understand and accept from us. And I think what's interesting, it's funny because the school that I coach at is a Catholic school. So there's a view of spirituality and Catholicism, the religion there. But what I love about them is more thinking about, is there a higher thing, not a higher being or an entity, but what's that higher purpose? And for me, it's that constant learning, right? That experience in Thailand at the conference was so amazing because typically if you go to a conference here in the US, it's all US people, maybe some Canadian, and there might be a spattering of different nationalities, different countries in the room. When we were in Thailand in that room together, I think there was 2 or 3 Americans and then people from all over the world. And we were talking about challenges and issues and successes and doing some celebration of successes and discussing how to resolve challenges, but of challenges in Vietnam, of Singapore, of various parts of Europe. Those viewpoints I would have never, ever received sitting here in the US. So for me, that's part of my spiritual it was so amazing to be part of those discussions and be able to learn from all those different people, from all those different parts of the world. It just made me a better person. And I think that's, from a spirituality perspective, that's important. It's just continuing to make me better with that open mind and accepting mind.
I totally get that. It's all about, from what you've described, what I got was, it's about that connection to that bigger purpose, right? And if you stay open and you keep learning and inquiring, then you got that access in any moment to be able to connect. And that's so important. Yeah, beginning of this year, I did a 10-day silent meditation, a Vipassana meditation. And, one of the key insight that I had was, if I, the insight was that we are dying, we are closer to death every day. So my question to you is that if you knew you were one day closer to death, how would you live? What would you change?
I'm not sure I would change, and I might spend more money on something.
That's interesting.
If I knew I was gonna die sooner, maybe I wouldn't be so penny pinching about things and get on that plane to go to my next trip to go to Vietnam or wherever.
Yes, please.
I would love to. But I don't think there's really anything mentally or physically that I would change, because I think I live maybe a little bit less streaming of some Netflix things at night, but sometimes you just need downtime. Your brain's on fire all day long and you're talking, and then you've got your community involvements and you've got family and so sometimes you need that downtime. But no, I get up every morning and I have that purpose. That's why having that mission statement was really important to me, because that frames my actions every day. Like, what is it that I'm going to do?
I saw that in all the areas of my life, whether it was finance, relationship, I could do something more, because, I lived like I had all this time to do everything and anything whenever I wanted to. But that was not true, because there is a trade-off that I'm making every moment. And that trade-off also has consequences, both positive and negative. And when I looked at both the positive and negative, then some of these things, were not consistent with what I say I want to have when I'm 80 years old. I've sort of done damage by not taking those breaks that I wanted to take, or having a very stressful time. And then I saw that as much as it is a struggle, I really have a choice about how I choose to do things. And so one of the first things that I've done this year is to organize with my mother, who's 80. I actually went for the program thinking, what if she died? Because, I'm really enmeshed with her. And how will that separation happen? And I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe I can take her to Australia and the US and London, where she's got siblings. We'll spend 2 weeks, every 2 months in different locations. Spend that time when they are around, rather than just show up for a funeral. Right. And so that was the change. So that was what I've done. So I'm going, to Australia in April. I'm going to the UK in June, and in September somewhere else. But that's what I've decided to do.
That awareness and recognition. I'm going to take your question and ponder on it more. Yeah, I will, for sure.
Okay, great. If you had to use 3 words to describe thriving, which 3 words would you use?
Happy,
Happy.
educated, sharing. And what I mean about sharing is just that. I think thriving for me is the ability to share, not only from an entrepreneur and a business perspective, but me and what I do in community. It's constantly being able to share thoughts, ideas, my time, that one of the most important resources that you have. And educate in more than just a formal certification or formal, but when I coach at Aquinas, these kids are grade 7 to grade 12 here in the US, and they teach me things all the time. First of all, lingo, because their lingo changes all the time, words for things, right? So we're always laughing about that, but they make me a better person, right? Because when you're dealing with these kids of these various ages, they're dealing with so many things as well. They may have ADHD or those types of issues. There may be problems at home. There may be all these things. And so you have to make sure that you're understanding that of your kids, but just sharing your time. That's why they're there, and they appreciate you being there for them. So I think that's thriving, being able to share that with people and continually learning. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you some quick questions. Don't overthink it. What's your favorite book?
Any Harry Potter book.
Ah. And your favorite travel destination?
Thailand.
And then maybe you might change it.
Yes.
Yes. Now, if you can have dinner with anyone in the world, who would it be?
Henry Cavill. He's a British actor, and he played Superman, and he's played in a lot of different roles, but he's a self-proclaimed geek. And there was one cut that I saw of him in an interview, and somebody says, "Oh, I was on Wikipedia and I learned blah, blah, blah." And we're talking to him, and he turned around and said, "You get your source of information from Wikipedia?" And I just thought, how interesting, because you're not like, come on, broaden your awareness to other sources of information. And that one quote made it very interesting. Very handsome individual, but
Okay, thank you. And what's the most unusual food that you have eaten or tried?
Testicles. Bull testicles. Yeah.
In Spain?
No, it was in Nebraska.
Now, if you can have any superpower, what would it be?
Invisibility.
Oh.
Because then I could go around and spy on people.
What's the best advice that you've ever received?
This was easy because this was just recent. And it was this is so funny. I have a boss, my boss from the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
And we still exchange Christmas cards every year. And his Christmas card that he wrote in my Christmas card this year, he asked me, how was your journey with sustainability? And remember, sustainability is an evolution, not a revolution. And that will be hard to hear because I'm so action oriented and go, go, go. And it was his advice, that advice to me actually helped me stop and think, I can't change the world in 24 hours. I can't change people's minds in 24 hours. This is going to take time, but it will work. Just focus.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful. It's an evolution and not a revolution. Wow. Katia, thank you so much for spending the hour with me and sharing of your life and your journey. I look forward to seeing you in Vietnam.
Sometimes, I guess, part on that journey, sometimes you wonder if what you're doing is important or interesting. Those are questions and little, demons that you might have in your mind. And, you know, having these kind of conversations with you, it confirms it is important and it is interesting and people are interested in these things. So keep going. Don't let those demons get you. And so I thank you for helping me battle my demons today.
Oh, you're welcome.